back to my channel. I am finally filming my how I fill in my brows tutorial per se for y'all. I've had so many people request this because I don't have any brows. I think I had a lot of requests also after my skincare, my last updated skincare routine, because normally y'all don't see me without brows. It's the first step in my makeup routine. And so a lot of times, even when I do get readies with me, I just don't include it because it can be time consuming and it just makes for an easier, quicker video. But when y'all saw the skincare routine and saw that, hey, she really does not have any brows whatsoever, I did get a lot of requests then. And you are right, I have absolutely no brows. And I know a lot of people say that, but I really just don't. My oldest gave me, sweet thing that she is, pregnancy-induced hypothyroidism, which I didn't even know was a thing, but it is. And hypothyroidism, one of the symptoms is you losing hair where you want it and gaining hair where you don't. So I have to shave my face more often and I don't have brows. So really about the middle of my eye, right about here, the hair stops growing completely. I don't even have whispers of hair at the tail of my brow. So I really do have to work on filling them in every day. I'm going to show you the products that I use to fill in my brow, and then we'll go ahead and get in the tutorial. Same as in my skincare video, actually, I like to have options. So I kind of have 2 of every step of my brows, and it will just depend on how I'm feeling as to what I decide to use that day. But for the pencil part, I have switched to pencils. There was a time when I used pomade, but I feel like pencils just go a little bit better for me right now. It's just what I prefer to use. So I will switch between my Anastasia Brow Whiz in dark brown or my L'Oreal Brow Stylist Definer in brunette. So both are very similar in look. They both have very skinny tips to the pencil and spoolies on the other end. The difference that I have found is the L'Oreal is a bit creamier, so you have a little bit less room to mess up, if that makes sense. It will glide on very, very easily, which means it will put it where you don't want it without you realizing it because it's so creamy, if that makes sense. I think they're both great. Obviously, the L'Oreal is much cheaper. It's less than half the cost of Anastasia, but again, it is a creamier pencil. It's not quite as waxy, so you're just gonna have to determine what you're most comfortable with. For my brow powders, I will go in between the Anastasia Brow Powder Duo in soft brown or the IT Cosmetics Brow Power Powder in Universal Transforming Taupe. I'm trying to see how much is in here if it tells. It doesn't say how much product is in here versus in here, so I can't let you know which one has the most, but they are very similar in price. I think they're only a couple dollars difference. And as my last step, I like to set them some way, somehow. I do like the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Gel. It is like glue, super glue for your brows. But the ones that I kind of switch between is the Glossier Boy Brow in Clear and the L'Oreal Brow Stylist Plumper Brow Gel Mascara in light to medium. Both have the same size spoolie. One is clear, the Glossier, and the L'Oreal obviously is tinted, light to medium. So again, it just depends on how I'm feeling that day, but those are the products that I like to use the most. So if you are interested to see how I fill in my non-existent brows, then just keep on watching. So I have done one already. This is my harder brow to do, so I chose to do the one that's easier on camera, but you can see the difference between the two, where this one stops growing right about there, and I have to obviously fill it in a good bit and create a whole new tail to my brow. So that's what we're going to be doing on the other. So in this video, I'm going to be using my Anastasia Brow Whiz in dark brown. I take the spoolie and I brush my brows up before I do anything. Some people like to brush them down. I choose to brush them up. Now, I know that all over the internet and probably all over YouTube, you're going to see the trick where they tell you to put the pencil right beside your nose and that's where your brow should start. Put it across your pupil, that's where your arch should be, and put it at the end of the eye, connected to your nose, and that's where your tail should be. that is a very good strategy to getting the shape that you want. I personally have done my brows so many times that I just kind of eyeball it. I don't put like the marks where they need to be. Moose is at the door. I will bring this one in a lot more that you'll see. And I prefer a longer brow than some people, so I take my tail a little bit longer, so the dot really wouldn't do me much good anyways. So we're just gonna kind of wing it. And again, I pulled it up. I'm gonna see if I can do this without, because normally my mirror is like this close to my face. And that's not gonna focus on my brow. So I take the tip, I don't roll up too much of this, I just do a little bit. And I'm going to start over here and just do little hair-like strokes to create the front of my brow. And then I'm going to start from the bottom and use that as my guide. I'm not so much creating a bigger brow on the bottom. I don't ever like to increase the size of the brow on the bottom. If I'm going to make a brow thicker, it's going to be from the top. If you make a brow thicker on the bottom, it will weigh your it will kind of droop your eyebrow and weigh your eyes down, and obviously give you less space to work with on your eyelid. So now I kind of brush them down just a little bit just to see where my hairs start to grow. And I'm just going to kind of make a line right there to fill in the top. This is not what it's going to look like at the very end, so don't worry. Now at the bottom, I'm going to continue this line, and as I continue it, I'm continuing it up. So I'm not going to go down right away, and I'm not going to go straight, because this is where my brows end, is where I want to create the arch. So I'm almost going to go, I'll have a friend. Yes? In just a few hours. Okay. She wants to know when everybody's going to be here to eat. All right, so I'm kind of going up, and I'm almost making the top of that line parallel to the line at the top of my brow. And then after I make that little arch, I'm going to start bringing it down into the tail. Okay, so I just fade it out into that tail. I'm going to probably end up filling this in a little bit, but it gives me a guide. So now I'm going to go back up to the top, and I'm just going to stay parallel with that and make another arch on top. So see how I'm doing that? Connecting it, and then I'm connecting that to the bottom part of the tail, and I'm just going to lightly fill it in. Now once I've done that, I see that I do want to fill this part in just a little bit and make the tail a little bit thicker. So see how that is? So now you're looking at it, and it's got a nice arch where I want the arch. Now, if I were to do this pencil trick, that is about where the arch for my eye needs to be. So again, once you do that a few times, you will be able to eyeball it very easily. Now I'm going to stop with the pencil, and I'm going to go in with my brow powder. And I'm going to use the Anastasia brow powder in soft brown, the duo. I mostly stick to the dark side, and I'm using the Anastasia number. It's worn off. I've had this brush for years, and I believe it's the number 12 brush. So I'm going to put a little bit on the tip of that brush, tap it off, and all I'm going to do is kind of fill in the color on the outside. I'm not doing anything to the front of my brow, and I'm just going to fill in. So basically I'm just setting that pencil. Now I can really see in the viewfinder and right here where it's a very light right here and darker right there. The only way to fix that I feel comfortable with is not to put more product on your brush, but to take whatever's left over and kind of just brush it through the front to where those two sections connect. And that way it has a nice gradient effect to it. And then you just kind of keep on filling in as you need to. Less is more when you're using any kind of brow products, whether it be creams or powders or pencils. You always want to start out with less and add on as you need versus putting way too much on and then having to try to figure out how to either make it lighter or basically take it off and start it. So if you can see, looking at my two brows, this brow naturally starts a lot closer to my nose than this brow. So what I'm going to do, again, I'm not taking any additional product on the brush. I still have the leftover from a couple steps ago. And I'm going to turn the brush right side up like this, parallel to my brow. And I'm going to kind of start it where I want the brow to start. And I'm just going to go that way and put a little bit of shape at the front of my brow. Now, that is very noticeable, I'm aware. So I'm going to go into the lighter color, put a little bit on the brush. This is really the only time I use the lighter color. And I'm just going to fill that in a little bit. And you take the spoolie and you can blend out whatever you need to blend out. And just make the front of my brow match up to the other front of my brow. Now, they are not alike, okay? Now this one, naturally when I draw it in, and even when I did have brows, the arch on this one was naturally not as much as the arch on this one, which is how it ends up being drawn in most of the time. If I wanted to, I could go in and try to draw in a higher arch on this, but keep in mind when you do that, you're only adding more product to your brow, making it thicker, and before you know it, you're going to have way more brow than you want and or feel comfortable with. So really, it's okay that they don't match perfectly. I still have an arch in both. It's just one is a little bit more pronounced than the other. If I wanted to go back, I could take a little bit more product right down at the bottom of the arch right here, which automatically makes the arch look not as pronounced. It's not that big of a difference, but it's a little bit of a difference. Now I'm going to take whatever product I'm going to use to set my brows, and today I'm using the Glossier Boy Brow in Clear. I have not tried the tinted versions of these, but I love the clear, and I imagine the tinted would be just as fabulous. And I'm just pulling the brow up. Now, I like to keep a little bit of a longer brow. I, in fact, just trimmed them yesterday. I don't like to have really short brow hairs. I'd rather manipulate them than cutting off too much and not having enough to work with, if that makes sense. So I pull them all the way up, and then I just take the spoolie and kind of press them parallel to the top of my brow. And that way, it makes a little bit more dimension down here. It's not as one color, if that makes sense, because you're pulling the brow up and you see a little bit more of my skin underneath versus before when it was kind of all one color. So it's a little less Sharpie brow than it was before, and it looks just a tad bit natural. And then the only other thing that I do is take my mirror back in front of me and I just make sure that they're as even as they're going to be and that I'm comfortable going on to the next step of putting my makeup on, which for me, this is my comfort zone for my brow. I'm completely fine with the fact that they don't match 100%, and I will now go on to put my makeup on. And that, my friends, is how I fill in my brows. I will say that once I got done with all of my makeup, I did fill in the tail of this one a little bit more to make it a little more symmetrical with the other one. Again, I just prefer to do my brows at the beginning, but you can obviously wait until the end so that you don't have to go back like I did once all your makeup is applied. Hopefully this video helped you. I know I had a lot of requests for it, so hopefully the ones that requested it found it helpful. Be sure and subscribe before you leave so you don't miss out on any future videos. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a very blessed day.